morning. Hope everybody's well. I know I'm a few minutes late. I apologize. I don't really run by the clock myself anymore, more or less by the sun these days. And it's been up early and longer, so that's been nice for me and Samson. So I have a few things that I wanted to show you, and I kind of jammed this video in between the iPet Goat 2 one and what was the other one? Oh, I forget. But I kind of wanted to fit this in because there's a few things that I wanted to cover for you guys. And I figured I'd just squish them together. That way we could move on and we don't have to have like 2 or 3 days of lives about different things. I would just squish a couple together, so I apologize if it seems disorganized to folks. You all know I do this as a labor of love, not really, to be popular or anything, obviously. So let me make sure comments are on. Make my face a lot smaller there. There we go. Ah, jeez, why is it doing that again? My YouTube app has never worked right. It never will, probably, because I am who I am. Okay, so for a long time now, there's been some very strange things taking place at the Vatican. Most of us know this. Even if you are Catholic or raised Catholic, I'm not here to offend anyone, but if you are offended, it says that will happen too. We need to keep our eyes open. There is no innocent group or party or person on this planet anymore. I hate to say that. Maybe if there's, newborn babies, but aside from them, even they come in to this world with some sense of brokenness. We seem to be rather broken. Call it original sin, call it that void we have inside. But I do believe this journey is a necessary journey, and we are supposed to learn as much from it as possible, and we should keep our eyes open. And so I'm going to show you a couple of things that are very weird to me. I think they're weird, and I had to grab a screenshot real quick so I could show this to you guys. So first I'm going to start off by saying everything shared is per the Fair Use Act of 1976 for the purposes of education and or entertainment and or criticism. I'm also not a doctor, not a physician. This is not medical advice. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. If you need any of those things, go to a professional, please. I'm here to share my journey, what works for me, and my personal opinions and perspectives. This is not, I guess if it were a newspaper, this would be more an editorial piece, so to speak. So for a while, things have been weird in the news, in the media, and I have been talking about this ad nauseum since like day one of the channel about how Project Mockingbird, which is the media psyop, which tells us, and again, a lot of us have spoken on this, and it's been very obvious. They have shown us pretty much who they are. They've done everything but totally reveal themselves. Even the people on YouTube who say, yeah, I'm a vet, and this is what they do, and they need your consent. And, well, that's them teaching us, right? That's them informing us so that we cannot say we did not know, so that no man has any excuse, and, so in heaven, so no man can boast. So we have to have our due diligence about us, and we have to have discernment about us, and we have to hone that discernment and test it, And so what's happening now with the media is there are allegedly, according to Project Mockingbird, which has been proven factual, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's not it is a conspiracy. That's not a dirty word, etymologically speaking. When you have 2 or more people together, where Christ says, there I shall be, on the other side of that, on the flip side, where you have 2 or more people together, you also have that possibility for corruption as well. So that works both ways. Sorry, I like to ramble a little bit and let people get a chance to get here, wake up, drink their coffee, have their orange juice with me, and kind of lay the groundwork for where I'm going with this. So it's hard to relay some of these things nowadays because it really just feels like nobody's listening, and like a lot of us are talking to open air. Um, to even get somebody to click the like button just to show us, hey, yeah, we understand what you're saying, we're on that level or whatever, is like you're asking someone for their life's blood. And I'm not saying, I'm not whining or anything like that. I'm saying we have all gotten to such a space behind the screens as to where it is affecting our ability to have compassion for our fellow man. That is a big part of today's deception. Is the screens that we're using. Hey, how are you? Nice to see a new face. Welcome. So we have to hone our discernment, and this journey again is necessary. So I never want to say, this is the darkness and that's all there is. However, you have to know these things are out there, these things are happening, so that you can defend yourself against them. The three little pigs didn't know that they should build their house stronger until they knew there was a wolf outside trying to get in to eat them, right? You don't know what you don't know. So there's some weird things happening at the Vatican. First, I want to start, and this is going to be strange. I hope this. So you see the channel name. I'm not going to out anybody here. I just want to offer you some, if you've ever watched this channel. As I've told you from day one, there's a lot of deception happening on YouTube. A lot of them tell us straight out that they are vets. They have worked for the military. They are working for the military. They are in the military. What does that tell you? Right now you have witnesses coming out of UFOs, and they are all with the military or affiliated with the military, or they are police, which I'm actually going to do a video about real soon about I think it's Peggy and Barney Hill incident, because I see a lot of things from then being foreshadowed into today as well. It's funny how things are not repeating so much as they are repeating and expanding. You can see this pattern happening in time. The further I get away from society, because I haven't worked for several years now, and when you're targeted, and I hate that term, I don't like it, but when the system targets you, sometimes it's your own loved ones, it changes the way that you have to live. It changes your lifestyle. And so I don't communicate with people a lot. And I'm used to looking at this screen, and I used to work a lot on computers and with computers. And I'm laying this out to show you something. I have notifications off. I don't know why I'd insist on doing that. Hold, please, sip orange juice. Okay, look at this man and tell me what's wrong, first of all. What do you think's wrong with this man? I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just going to say flat out, if this is a real news person, if this is a real flesh and blood human being, they really need to work on their camera angles and their lighting and their graphics and maybe the background that they're using, because as far as I can tell, maybe this man exists somewhere, but the one that they are using on this site appears to be AI generated. There's this thing called Uncanny Valley that when you look at a doll that is made to be lifelike or human-like, that they are so much like a person that it's eerie, but that you can tell that something is missing, something is off and not right. And I would bet that would be like the spirit of man, the man spirit, the spirit that God gives you. Natives speak of it differently. I try not to get caught up on terminology. That's why we do etymological studies as well. We cannot be afraid of words, signs, or symbols. They can be used by good or nefarious people doing good or nefarious things. It all depends. We all have that capacity. This is why we need to deny ourselves certain things. We need to tell ourselves no, just like a good parent tells a child no, because boundaries are good for us, and they keep us safe. So this person I think is AI generated. What's my problem with this? Well, this website and a lot of other websites that claim to be for Catholics, by Catholics, are a little off to me. They have people that are attacking the faith and they're not helping to build it up. Yes, we should keep our eyes open. We need to know the flaws and the faults that are going on, and if there are heinous things happening that are allegedly occurring by some of the clergy, you know what I'm talking about here. If children are being harmed and or when they are being harmed, obviously that is a abominable act. And the book tells us that anyone who harms a child will have a millstone placed around their neck. Basically meaning you should just put a millstone around their neck and kind of like throw them off a bridge. That's like a millstone is what holds something down. It's like an anchor. Meaning that person will never be upright again. They will have that millstone around their neck because they've hurt a child. So I am not condoning anything like that. I have thought long and hard about my decision to attend church at times again. And if certain things occur, then I will not attend at all anymore. I cannot be in agreement with certain things, right? And I've talked about that from the beginning. God told me not to be a member of any church officially, that they're under judgment. But here's the thing. If you're going to report on things and if you're going to expose nefarious deeds, you need to be exposing them in truth. And truth stands on its own. It doesn't need anyone to prop it up. I think this person is AI generated, and I think several of their correspondents are there as wolves in sheep's clothing just to tear down the church. Much like we're seeing people tear down America, saying how wicked Masons built it. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm not saying it is true. I simply don't know. I don't like supposing a man or woman's intention when I don't know them, right? I don't know any of those people personally. Didn't know George Washington, right? But I know that for a time I thought I had a good life. And when that curtain falls down and you see how much deception is out there, it can really rock you, right? And you go through that kind of dark night of the soul. But it also makes you more discerning. We should expose things when they are untrue or when they are wicked or evil. But how far do we go with that? And when do we keep a secret, right? A confidence for a friend, for something they tell us. Priests do it all the time when we confess our sins to them and we unburden ourselves to them. Sometimes I wonder how they walk around at all. So again, there is this sense of balance. If you're going to expose things, do it in truth and love, and try not to point fingers at people, right? Because we know that this is manifesting from the spirit world. This is manifesting from the ether that we cannot see. At least the people who watch this channel. I'm not going to explain on every video the type of channel this is or the type of person that I am. Everybody is welcome here. But we definitely break down reality in reverse here. We begin with the spiritual and we kind of watch how it manifests. And I think that there is a military operation on YouTube to propagandize to American citizens, to those who don't watch TV. They know a lot of people who left cable. They know people don't have faith in the mainstream media. And we've seen this migration of celebrities to social media. We're seeing that that's happening. We're seeing Hollywood's getting torn down. We're seeing that some of these celebrities are not going to withstand that transition. They're not going to be able to adjust. Their reputations won't survive, whatever the case may be. But I think that Americans, we are in a place much like they were before World War II, or what we were told it was like, in that you have to be careful what you say Everything is analyzed, everything is psychoanalyzed, usually in the wrong way, to exploit a person or to vilify a person. So I'm not here to point fingers at specific people unless I think, it's an extreme case where, something needs to be done. But I think that there are people propaganda using propaganda as a weapon of war online, to the youth. Reddit is really bad with it. TikTok obviously is haywire. It's out of control. People keep sending me videos from TikTok, and I tell them every time, I don't use this app. Stop sending me these. I don't want to open it on my phone. And where's that respect? I've told this to. We're dealing with people who seem unable to look at their own behavior and examine it and say, okay, this is error, like I shouldn't be going this way. And it's very obvious to some of us, and it's very hard when you see your loved ones taken in by a lot of this. And some of it I think is done through the media, and some of it I do think is what people would call the old religion, witchcraft, magic, but it's not magic in the way that Disney shows us magic. It's magic in a high-tech, what's that word? Parapsychological way. I know I'm getting a little, but I'm trying to come back around. This all does tie together. So the propaganda happening online, we have to be very mindful of what we're allowing into our eye gates and our ear gates. If you understand what I'm speaking about here and the verbiage that I'm using, please do consider giving the video a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you a thing. It just lets me know that I do have some people here still who are understanding, what we're looking at, and some people who are being helped, maybe, hopefully. So why are all these things being done? Well, I want to show you something else. Okay, so first of all, I think this is an AI guy. I think that people are reporting from other places in the world, no matter where you're at, okay? The news that you're getting from faraway places, I don't think it's necessarily legit. Again, I've said this before, since 2019, at least. For me, it started in like 2018. But you can really very easily reroute an internet connection and make it an intranet connection in an entire community. Like at work, you have your own intranet, INTRANET. It's like not the internet, right? The intranet is just for that business or just for that small community, just for that server, right? And you can do that in a broader range and a broader way. And I think again, we have to be very mindful. I'll be very surprised, because I've seen a lot of foreign channels that I used to watch, a few Americans in Japan that I watched that aren't around anymore. And it was just people walking around. Now you see it. Everything is very edited. Everything is very polished and shiny, like a television show. And again, everything is very anti-American. Okay? I'm not saying we don't have our problems, just like I'm not saying the Catholic Church doesn't have its problems. I'm saying this is tearing apart the fabric of our society, and we cannot be surprised when certain things occur. And then we're going to, after a disaster, we're going to want help and ask for help. And the help that they give us, this hero that they give us, is not going to be a hero. It's going to be an anti-hero, because everything they do is inverted, flipped inside out, and upside down. And I do have a personal interest in this, because this spirit, this anti-religious spirit, again, I'm trying to be tactful because I don't want to attack a specific group or people or make a blanket statement. But it has come into my own family and community, and it has torn apart relationships. And so I have a very personal interest in being anti-Baphomet. Okay? So let's look at something else. what's going on in St. Peter's? That's interesting that that's the first thing that comes up is an electronic health record system, a 25 million electronic health record system. This is not what I was looking for, but it's interesting nonetheless because it's a current event. Epic, a 25 million investment the hospital said it has been working on for how long? Nearly 6 years. 6. There's that number again. You can pull up almost any link, any current article today. Okay? Patient portal used by St. Peter's patients with a new feature called My Chart. My doctors use My Chart as well. When was this? This was only 18 hours ago. Bizarre. We've had My Chart for a long time. So we're looking for stuff like this. Okay, this is high strangeness happening in high places. Why they always have to be naked and stuff, I do not know. Why is it doing that? It is bizarre. But penitential rite held after naked man stands on St. Peter's Basilica's main altar. Huh. Even if, okay, any religion that is disrespected to a certain point, like where it's blasphemous, where things that a person holds to be sacred. And I'm not talking about anything that has to do with human sacrifice or any of that stuff. I'm talking about, faith, how they worship their creator, right? Whatever it is that they do. Because again, I'm also not going to jump on the bandwagon that every other religion is demonic. But I will say it's becoming very obvious when you just, and this is the majority of people that you interact with today. They have a very big problem having their own mind, making their own decision for their own self. Okay, and I'm not talking about people like me who are indecisive and can't figure out what to eat for lunch. I'm talking about they say and do what the group says and does, right? That type of mentality. Fortunately, I'm rebellious, which isn't always good according to God, but I'm rebellious against injustice. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And again, I don't promote any type of violence, but any type of violence at all. We do need to peacefully resist, and we do need to stand up when certain things are done. If this was a Muslim shrine, okay, and something like this had occurred, I would say the same thing. People are going to be surprised by my attitude. I know that we're supposed to be divided insofar as, they don't believe in Christ, Christians believe in Christ. I understand that. Like, I get that we're not brothers and sisters in Christ, but they are my brothers and sisters in humanity. Okay? And again, I believe this takes some tact and it takes balance. You can't just automatically want to come to blows with other people because they're different than you. And by blows, I mean verbally as well. So this is just one shred of a something that's going on. Now, allegedly, it was to protest Ukraine. What St. Peter's Basilica has to do with what's going on in Ukraine, what's allegedly going on there, I would not know. So we just had a neat thing happen at St. Peter's Square. St. Peter's Square is what they call the area outside of, it's like what you would call like the center of town, right? Like where maybe sometimes on Main Street you have like a gazebo or you have little Main Street shops. St. Peter's is like the outer area, I believe, of the Vatican, of Vatican City. It's where everything meets up, the crossroads, actually, ironically enough. And again, I'm not saying the Catholic Church doesn't have problems, because yes, it does. Anywhere you have man, where two or more men are, yes, Christ will be. But where two or men are, you also have that capability for conspiracy. What are they doing together? They're conspiring. What does conspiring mean? They are planning something in secret amongst themselves. Okay? It's not a dirty word. I don't know why good people, not good people. I don't know why people with morality and people who still have standards, people who still know how to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, people who still take a blanket to that homeless man instead of turning your face away and saying how disgusted you are. I'm disgusted by seeing some of the comments online. Like, this is why I'm having a hard time now. I'm seeing almost no kindness in the world. None. I found a rock today. I showed you the message that I got down in the trails where I walk. And yes, that message was for me. I know it was for me because one of the things that was spray painted on it, and I posted it on the community tab, one of the things that was spray painted on it was a tattoo I was shown by Diablo, the tattoo artist, one of Satan's minions who walked into my life and turned it upside down, and it has not been on track since. It has not been normal. This is why I do what I do, because I was shown the darkness. I had strayed from God pretty far. I hadn't done anything. I mean, some people are Satanists or they are working for the enemy and they don't recognize or realize that's what they are doing. I was one of those people. I was pretty much an NPC and a peacemaker. I just went along to get along. I wanted people around me to be happy. But I don't know why so many of us are just, again, is it the fluoride in the water? Why are we just sitting and doing nothing? We know the alien deception is coming. We know it's a lie. We know they're not aliens. They're going to get people probably to fight the ones in the sky when those will be God's angels. And the fallen aliens are here in the waterways. The abyss is the ocean. It is the water. I don't understand why I see these things, and I was never a very wise girl. And yes, I still say girl. Yes, I'm one of those people who has faced so much abuse. I have kind of retreated into rainbows and butterflies and unicorns still being beautiful and not perverted by man at this point, because I know those are symbols for other things now, but they did not begin that way. Why are we allowing them to pervert everything? Everything. Our words, our speech. Nobody's going to control the way I speak. My husband cannot do it. My parents could not do it. Every time I said no as a child, I told you guys this, I didn't finish this story. Every time I said no, and we were talking about this, a couple of us women, about how this is why we ended up having promiscuous stints in our life, or we were with people that we shouldn't have been with, because we were broken of saying no. Every time I said no, I was taught not to say no to you don't say no to your elders, and I was given the yellow dial soap, and I was put in my mouth, and I was sat in the toilet. And I mean, it wasn't like I was sat there. It was just like the movie. For some reason, movies have had like a big thing in my life. People like to copy what goes on in television and movies. I don't know if it's because they have no original ideas of their own, or if it's, again, some type of weird spiritual manifestation of things, but I know we've talked about that as well. So I don't know why we're allowing these people to run us. I honestly don't. So I want to show you something else. Let's look at this real quick, because where are you? Okay, so not alone. Half-naked ballet dancers in St. Peter's are obviously what some cardinals want to see, but nobody else. Okay, first of all, I'm just going to say ballet is beautiful. You know, it's a beautiful art. It is, I don't think it's meant to be like occultic or anything, but I know that dancing, again, can be a good thing, can be a negative thing. And it's interesting how dancing is always attached to plagues. I think that's very interesting. So again, we're seeing these little threads being connected, okay? So they're complaining that this happened, and they're saying, that this was inappropriate. It should not have went on near the, I'm not going to agree to those ever, that it should not have went on. But apparently this is a pretty popular place to flash mob, so they're causing an uproar about that. So let's look at the Pope. And let's look at some Pope news. Now, again, on YouTube, we're seeing a lot of allegedly Catholic YouTubers talk about how the Pope's saying this or saying that and doing this or doing that. But I'm having a really hard time finding any actual information on some of the stuff they're reporting on. So again, do your due diligence. And these are big channels I'm talking about. I'm having a really hard time finding original sources for their information. And if they are the original source, then I want to see that they are actually, in St. Peter's Square, not a dude in front of a green screen who looks like an AI generated bot. You better have some resources for me. So we're seeing this tear down of the Catholic faith, and it's been happening for a long time. And I know what people say about it, but I just want to, remind everybody that those who are most persecuted in the end, this is why I went back to reading my catechism, because the Catholic Church is being so persecuted in this time, and it is the time of the Antichrist. So he must really hate the Catholic Church. Why would that be? Why do you think that might be? We do not worship Mary. We venerate her because we are told to honor our mother and our father both, not just one. That's why we honor Mary, because she brought Christ into the world. Mary brought Muhammad. A woman brought Muhammad. A woman brought Martin Luther King. A woman brought John F. Kennedy. You're seeing a teardown of the feminine right now as well, or at least a teardown of the true, natural feminine and an uprising of this distorted, perverted version of what they want to be the feminine. Because why? Because Baphomet is an androgynous being. Now, that just because they changed the word doesn't mean it means something else. Baphomet has both sets of plumbing, okay? Do not be fooled. Everything you're seeing now is religious. We are entering the time of a holy war, and it will be massive if people like you and me don't stand up and peacefully resist. If we don't gather, if we don't stop getting caught up in our daily lives, it's going to overtake the world. And I know in the beginning they said, why are we doing all this for just, 3% of the population? Does it really look like that at this point? Does it look like that where you're at? Because it doesn't where I'm at. And I'm in small town America. And I noticed this prideful spirit taking over this area several years ago. Or at least being more open about it and more bold about it. I wanted to go to my son's school to speak with some of the teachers. I was concerned about the after-school program. I asked the minister of the Church of God to go with me. He declined. Ever since then, I have been mercilessly hounded online, stalked, watched, physically. This is no joke. So why is all this weird stuff coming out of the Vatican then about certain things going on there that shouldn't be going on and masses being changed? And I've covered some of this, so I don't want to really go back over that. I want to give you my theory right now in a nutshell. Pope Francis Church. Watch this. And there's another one. Crazed vandal wrecks Pope Francis photo, dresses up in priest robes at New York City church. And I told you how easy it is to get those things, right? And I don't know about other ladies, but I was warned, and I don't even drive, about fake cops pulling people over that they had stolen uniforms. How hard would it be to have another force, an anti-American force? And again, I don't want to label any one group because I think it's people from every group. I think one group's leading the charge, the group I just mentioned, but it's people from every group. But how hard would it be to take over a land if they had tunnels underneath of everything? If you could have access to such uniforms, the best, shall we call them, Halloween costumes ever, right? How hard would it be to take over a nation? To make cops look bad, make firemen look bad, make priests look bad and wicked. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying these are actually wild things we have to consider today, unfortunately. When YouTube first started, there were women and children being taken as they exited grocery stores in Detroit. They had men and militias sitting outside the grocery stores. They've scrubbed all those videos from YouTube. Where are all the women going in DC? All the women of color. Where are all the indigenous women going from the Trail of Tears? And most of the people that go missing in the natural park or national parks, they are women. Many of them are in the military, and many, oddly enough, have been speech occupational therapists, which have a lot to do with respiratory therapy and breathing. I found that very interesting when researching for 411. I'm sorry I'm giving you something weird to look at here while I went off there a little bit, but we have to put all these things together. This is a massive, very quiet, covert takeover of the system and of our nation. And, they acted like America was the last nation. And it's weird how they tell us, Ethiopia still has the Book of Enoch, right? And they still have the original church and documentation of that. But our priests here go off on missionary to those areas. What if America was the last to receive the gospel, not the first? We are the youngest nation. We got to start using our brain. Everything we've been told is a lie. Everything. If Ethiopia has the oldest records of the Book of Enoch, if that is true, and Sumerian texts and all these other things, and the gospel tells us to go forth and make disciples of all the nations, and that once that happened, once the gospel was spread to every nation, that we would see the birth pains begin. What if America was the last nation? Again, use our brains. It's the last. And they say there are tribes all over the place. Yeah, that might be true, but obviously they're older than us. Just because we didn't know they were there doesn't mean they weren't there. Do you see the logic I'm trying to use here? Nothing they tell us is true. So here's the thing. Rome is how far away? For most of us in America here, or some of you I know watch from Australia, Rome is not where we are. Okay? I can't walk down to St. Peter's Square and see any of this for myself. When CV began at the beginning of 2019, when I told you I believe that the Queen truly passed then, I think the Pope was also. I think the Pope is no longer, at least this Pope Francis, the original or whatever, I think he did pass away. I don't think it was a mistaken news blurb. I think that he passed away. But if him and the Queen passed away at the same time, people would know that that was not natural. Follow me here. All the lockdowns, not wanting certain people to travel. And again, it's funny how some YouTubers were able to travel all over the place during lockdowns. Why did they get special privileges? Please think about these things. They have people tied to these 9 to 5 jobs. Well, I gotta have a house. I gotta have the lights on. I can't. We need to be. We need to be changing at this point in time and adapting and really choosing the proper way. Because there's not going to be much time. Like, this is a real thin line. It's like when you're on the freeway, right? And you get in the lane for a tunnel, like a tunnel's coming up and you have to hurry up and everybody has to merge. You don't want to do that at the last minute, right? I don't think the Pope has been with us since about 2019, and the Queen was probably gone around that same time. Of course, that is the royal family's prerogative. If they had to mourn, if they had to set things up, I would not blame, people for that's their business. I don't think they have to announce certain things to everybody. We've gotten way too media crazy. But I think we also believe everything the media tells us, and that's our problem now, is we believe everything. Somebody says it, we just go with it. We don't even question it. And we start pointing fingers and accusing. That's what's frightening about this mentality. That when it gets to a mob mentality, these people who have not harnessed their spirits are going to be taken over by the people. And these other religious people, they're very serious about their religion. They're very serious about Baphomet. They're very serious about inversion. And they practice and they worship and they do what they're supposed to be doing. Are you praying? Are you praying? Are you meditating on positive heavenly things? Are you keeping your eyes open? Are you being helpful and compassionate? We have to defend ourselves with higher frequency vibrations, with higher light vibrations. We have to attempt and strive to be the light beings that we're supposed to be. Shine a light on the wickedness. Light is purifying. Okay? We have to do this together for our children, or all is lost. That's why I can't do this anymore as often as I did before. It's just a fact at this point. I can't remember the last time I experienced some genuine compassion with somebody. Some of you guys, yeah, and when we've shared some stories with each other and we pray for each other, and that's awesome. But like face-to-face compassion, all you got to do is go to one of the homeless videos and read the comments. They're horrible. Okay, so Pope Francis Church being built. I want to show you this. Because again, I think they're telling us without telling us, okay? Let me see if I can find it. One World Religion headquarters set to open next year. Is this it? Wow, they're just like blatantly advertising it now. Okay, and it's so ugly. Can we just agree that this is not architectural beautification or art? It is so ugly. And I see obviously that there's been some math used and some symmetry, obviously, with the roads and the 3 buildings, and you got the 3. Okay, so one is the headquarters will be called the Abrahamic Family House. Now, we looked at this for a minute, okay? Now, the headquarters is being done in collaboration with Pope Francis and Sunni Muslim leader. Okay, and it's the document of human fraternity for world peace. Okay. Stated the purpose of the Abrahamic Family House is to bring understanding and tolerance among the faiths, but there are a couple of notable challenges. First, Abu Dhabi is a part of the UAE where it is illegal for Christians to proselytize, and conversion from Islam is prohibited. So they have to be down with the Islam there, and they're not allowed to convert away from it. The Pope represents Roman Catholicism, where Christians are free to convert to Islam, but citizens of Abu Dhabi are not free to choose Christ. Yeah. Yeah, and what are they going to do about Sharia law? And I did a video about this. I said, this is why they want you covering your faces. This is a multi-purpose thing. Number one, it's the breath of God you're covering. Number two, you're covering the image of God as well. Number three, these people don't like teeth for whatever reason. I don't know why. I have no idea. I just know that there's a psalm that talks about David asking God to knock the teeth out of all of his enemies' mouths, and that's all I've seen for a long time now, sadly, young people without their teeth. Somehow I made a lot of enemies, or it's just the fact that, again, I'm noticing these things now. Okay, though usually not enforced, teaching that Jesus is the only God is considered to be an act of insulting Allah or the Prophet Muhammad, and offenders can be subject to imprisonment for 5 or more years. And now this is supposed to be built in Jerusalem. Yeah, and Muslims teach that apostates should be killed. Isn't that the opposite? Okay. In December 2020, the United Nations passed, and I found something interesting about the word UN too. I know I'm mashing a lot together here, but there's a lot to cover. In December 2020, the UN passed an anti-blasphemy law that most Christians are not aware of. Embraced by the UAE, prohibits any teachings against Islam, including biblical teachings, which could be considered offensive. Most Christians understand the term one world religions to refer to the merging of all religions, including Christianity, into a single global religion. Many Christians believe that a one world religion is directly linked to the last days when the Antichrist will establish a one world religion which will be associated with a one world government and lead to the mark of the beast. Okay. So, what's the clue here? Well, that's already like, it's all no good. Like, yes, we should be in fraternity with each other, but we need to draw the line at the same time. We should not worship together. Sadly, we cannot do that. They outright say that idolaters should be killed, and that's what most Christians, that's what they call Christians. Yeah. It's a sad state of affairs, and I can't pretend to understand. These are complicated, complex issues, and I am not a politician, and I'm not a religious leader, but I am a concerned mother, and I want to see my children understand that they have choice in life. Okay, so I need to find no. Hold, please. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking for something very specific. So I'll just type it all in there. No. No. Okay, so here's the thing. Popes often have churches and people, obviously, right? You have St. Peter's Church, right? You have churches that are named after saints and whatnot. But it's like stamps. When you are in a pope, when you're a pope, the church is not built in your name until you are deceased. That does not happen until you pass away. Okay? I might be able to find it in the catechism. I like to show you guys proof of what I'm saying, so you don't just like, oh yeah. But I mean, it's a well-known fact that popes don't have churches built for them or in their names until after they've already passed away. It's kind of a way to venerate a saint or a pope or what have you. So the fact that he's having a church built in his name, again, are they in fact telling us without telling us that he is gone? Because the things that we're seeing take place in the Vatican are strange. They are not normal. And now he's allegedly in the hospital. They're saying that's why he's going to miss this Sunday's Mass. And Biden missed an appearance, what was it, yesterday or the day before, for a root canal. So both Biden and the Pope in the same week are missing in their appearances at events where they were supposed to be. And the Pope wasn't even at that St. Peter's Basilica when the dancers were there. He was not even there. I think something has been done to these leaders. Biden obviously is not himself. We've seen a lot of fails on the green screen with him. We've seen what appears to be latex mask on his neck and ears. Like, they're just being very blatant with this. They're very bad at what they're doing, and they're not really good at playing Dr. Evil and taking over the world. But I do believe these things are suspect. We have to start seeing these patterns, right, that take place around us in the bigger picture, not just having tunnel vision and focused on our own life and our own journey. Okay. Now, so you know my theory on that. I think he's no longer with us. I think there's strange things happening, and strange things coming out from Rome because they're wanting to tear down the Catholic faith, and they're going to merge it with Muslim and make some sort of bizarre, what is it called? Somebody called it, I don't know, some sort of bizarre version with Christianity and Islam together. Some mesh up of it, but you would have to get rid of Christ if you do that. I can't see them backing down on that. And sadly, if we don't have a leader there and there's no one in the seat, and a lot of the cardinals and bishops are being accused of heinous crimes, so they will be taken out of those roles, whether they are guilty or not. And that's the problem there. Again, I'm not saying it's not being done. I'm saying the way that alleged justice is coming to these people is not right. And there was a lot of issues with masses in the Vatican that were inappropriate. Okay, so there's where the naked man, yeah, okay. I even saw on Etsy somebody selling, what are they called? Little guillotine earrings. Guillotine earrings. They know what time it is. I think that I purposely was pushed to sin and tripped up just so I would get caught up in persecution. This person didn't care about my soul one way or the other. Obviously, they didn't care about my well-being. They didn't care about my history in the church or what I already believed. They just wanted me in it now so that I would be going down that river for persecution. These people have planned this for a long time. And granted, like I said, I don't think they're very good at it. The people around me are behaving very odd, very publicly odd, very strange, and it's very obvious that these people have a problem. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if comments are working or not working. But again, sometimes when you try to even interact with people, oh, somebody took a thumbs up away. Thanks, guys. I just like to know if you understand where I'm going with some of this. So it's very suspect. I think the Queen probably passed at the beginning of CV. I think that's when the Pope passed as well, because there was an announcement about it, but they redacted it. I forget what channel reported on it, but it was on the news that he had passed away. And then they went back on that. They doubled down. So what's happening? Okay, so I'm going to show you this, but again, it's triggering for me, but I had to show you how some of this might be helpful for us, again, and just being aware that it's out there and understanding how to avoid it, okay? I wanted to look at a couple things because now this is called the Deprogramming Wiki, right? And this person over here. Where is he? France. He's Springmeier. Fritz Springmeier. He's been on the Prophecy Channel. He's also been on a lot of radio shows back in the day. I think Art Bell might have interviewed him. His material is very dark to look at. But according to my research and the digging that I did, and I've done videos on it, some of what he says I found to be true. When I dug deep, I always, all of these roads always led me to some type of human sacrifice and or cannibalism. And the literature that I found suggested, and you're not allowed to say some of this. Some of this is considered anti-Semitic, so I'm not even allowed to speak on it, okay? There are certain things we're not even allowed to say, right? So I'm just not going to say those things, if anyone's listening. Where was I going with that? Sorry, I didn't mean to hit that. But his stuff is very dark, but some of it's true. And like I said, whenever I dug deep, I always got to some type of human sacrifice, satanic ritual abuse, and cannibalism. And in the very bottom of it, it's sourced and this very old newspaper article that I found. I'll try and see if I still have it on my drive, but that stuff disappears, and you guys know that it does because it's happened to you too. It showed that the Jewish folks and that Catholic priests were colluding to cover this all up. Now, at the beginning of CV, they also allegedly found remains under a Catholic missionary in Canada. I also believe Canada is having an anti-American campaign at this moment. They've already been pretty much taken over. You can see it in some of the YouTubers and the way that they talk and the things they say and the things that they don't say. You can see somebody's affiliation. And anyone who is very successful right now in this time, they've made some kind of deal. They've come into agreement with some part of this agenda at this time. There's no other option anymore. There really isn't. I mean, God can lift certain people up, right? There's certain people maybe that have money still that are doing certain things, right? He has his people too. But God don't really care about money. And the system isn't really his thing. That's Satan's thing. That's why God's people are always peculiar people. They're not, they're people who march to the beat of their own drummers, right? Like us. So I thought that some of this might interest you guys. Because again, in the vein of the season of exposure, and I brought a word to everyone about this being the season of exposure at the beginning of 2020. And so a lot of things are being revealed, okay? I'm sorry this gets very hard for me. I didn't realize that certain things were being done to me in my life. And I still don't know if they were intentional. Sometimes abuse is just ritualistic, and by its very nature, abuse is satanic. So you could say that all abuse is, ritualistic and satanic. The problem I have right now is that this alien agenda seems to coincide with... Okay, so an alien comes to your house, right? You're sleeping in bed. You're cozy in your own bed. You're a sovereign being. You're sleeping in the safety and comfort of your own home, where some way or another you pay to live. And your spirit is within your little body, your little mind, having your dream experience. And something enters your house, uninvited, at least you think it's uninvited, drugs you in some type of way, or mesmerizes you in some type of ways to where you cannot move or defend yourself, but you're made suddenly calm, right? You're sedated, but you can still see what's going on or feel what's going on, right? Sound familiar? And then they probe you. Let me just say, first of all, those aren't benevolent beings. Those would be malevolent. and probing. Does that sound familiar to anything that we know about satanic ritual abuse? Again, I'm not trying to get graphic here. We are adults. You can use your imagination to carry you to the next logical step. Why are we seeing defund the cops, and why are we seeing so many police who are allegedly Masons? So many firemen who are allegedly Masons. So many military people who a lot are satanic, and I've seen videos on that. They're just open to all religions, which they should be, I guess. Why are all these people coming out and talking? Why are they the witnesses? Why is it all firemen and police and military? Oh, you know they're credible. That guy's a military man. He's credible. He's got a good reputation. Really? I find it interesting, too, that there are some YouTubers that talk about missing people and certain things that happen to them. Back in the day, serial killers, like the Zodiac killer, they used to write to the police because they're so arrogant. The police wouldn't catch on to them, and they wanted to brag. They don't even care that they go to jail. They just want to be interviewed and on TV, and they want to brag about how, oh, you only caught me because I wanted you to. I wanted to tell my story. They're narcissists, too. How many of them do you think are from the synagogue of Satan, SOS, son of Sam? Do you see how all this stuff ties together? It's funny how alien abductions, seeming, if you sit them side by side again, we're visualizing. I'm trying to show you what they have in common. Why are so many alien abductions on paper, if you wrote them down side by side? Why are they almost identical to satanic ritual abuse? And why is there always a psychologist involved who does some regressive hypnosis? Why is that person there? These people aren't all there to help us, right? This is how the alien deception is going to work. Everybody who's been abducted or had an experience has had something implanted in them, some suggestion that when this deception takes place, they are going to act in accordance with whatever they were told or programmed to do. The deception is going to be huge because it's going to be inside people around us as well. They're just going along with this. They don't even know that that's not their own thoughts or ideas or memories. You have to think about this. Why are those things so similar? And a lot of it has to do with bloodlines. A lot of it has to do with mind control and how one set of people look down on another set of people. They don't consider us human beings. We're not human beings to them. We're allowing them to do it, right? And this is why we're going to talk about how you invite things into your life. Those alien experiences were invited into people's lives, whether they know it or not, whether they knowingly invited it or unknowingly invited it. And you know that I did this myself. I invited someone in who flat out told me he was a fallen angel. I thought he was just out of his mind. And I was like, okay, pick up this guitar and go, because I think you're just on something, but I'll go with it. Sure, you're a fallen angel. I let him in the door. I don't remember nothing after that night. Nothing. Who knows what I did? This is not funny. This is ruining people. And, people don't get it. They think it's fake. They think all this stuff is fake. So I want to show you something. There's the Vatican book, which we'll get to. But if this interests you and you want to look at some of it, we can. But I want to show you programming terms and their explanations. Because this is what, when I say to look for breadcrumbs in the media and in their stories, like the number 33, everybody knows that by now. But there are other things too. I just found out today that like the phrase un, used to mean back in the day devil, diablo, un. Which is funny because un is what else? What do we know un as? What's big in our world? The UN. They say it stands for United Nations. Sure. Okay? That's where etymology and studying the history of etymology comes into, helpful. I'm sorry if you guys can't comment. Please do comment when the video goes up, though. Once it goes up, I set the comments for on during live chat, and then once it's posted, I go in and I have to allow all comments. I guess it's because I'm under 1,000 again. I don't know. Sorry about that. I wasn't under 1,000, but my silly butt. Okay, so these are all the words from A to Z. These are programming terms and their explanations. So, for example, if we click on that one, access programs, that'll have words that show you, well, it'll tell you what access programs are. Let's go. A recall and a retry program, Alice in Wonderland programming, okay? The programming or handler uses the book written by Lewis Carroll to map the subject's system. The created parts, every alter is given a name and role after the characters in the book, okay? Alien programming. Blue beams of light are used as a hypnotic induction. How many people are listening to ASMR and hypnotic induction and those binaural tones? Those aren't good. I strongly advise you to stay clear of binaural tones, okay? Don't mess with them. Just don't, because if you fall asleep, you don't know what's going on there. And the people who've suggested it to me have all been working for the other team, whether they knew it or not. So I stay clear of hypnosis these days and binaural tones and most ASMR. I don't go near that stuff, okay? Okay, so this is subjects who are given the cover story of being abducted by aliens, and often they'll replace the alien face with the face of an owl. Why? Because the owl is wise in all of its ways, and the owl, I guess, represents Moloch, and in Bohemian Grove, that is what that statue is. Most people don't know what that is. It's a giant owl. Can we get past that now? I should have a bigger channel. I should actually, work on editing and polishing things up. I honestly just don't know if I have most of my energy goes into praying and taking care of my dogs, and that kind of thing. But most of my energy goes into thinking about people, praying for that person. Sometimes it's on my knees saying a rosary. Sometimes it's in my head as I meditate, as I walk. But I spend a lot of time pontificating on these larger concepts now of time and what time means. I'm like trying to unpack that with myself. And it's interesting, we should always try to grow and learn. Anyway, the subject during this experience seeks a God who is a great being to control them. This is used to program in the evil and good aliens or good, evil, or good gods. Gee, didn't I just suggest that? And again, you guys know I look at all this the first time with you. The gods or the aliens during a programming session will not be so strange that the subject, as a mote, can't understand their purposes and activities. The subject may perceive these aliens on the trip experimenting with us. This is a common, easy to create psychotropic programming script. Alpha programming. Gee, isn't that the name of one of the strains? Alpha is also a sleep term. It's also found in sleep terminology. Is total alignment with the programmer's agenda. It is a prerequisite for other forms of programming and a base program. So yes, this is the base. This is the template. This is what lays the foundation for everything else. This is regarded as general programming within the base control personality. This means you don't need to create an alter. You don't need to fracture the personality. Those really, the people that they want really broken are the ones that are abused the most. I mean, obviously. Alpha programming is accomplished through deliberately subdividing the subject's personality. Okay, so they start subdividing it. In essence, causes a left brain, right brain division, right? Allowing for a programmed union of L and R through neuron pathway stimulation. We've talked about that as well. Alpha programming aims to instill a mechanical paradigm where all parts are instruments, vessels, or puppets that can be made to do anything by those who hold the insights into the subject's mind. Young children have long periods of alpha activity and must be trained to enter other brainwave states for long periods. Access codes and sexual alters will often be placed in alpha, which may also be coded red. Amnesia programming. Didn't know you could actually program that. The alters will be programmed with amnesia as a backup. Backup amnesia means the part doesn't remember that they lost time or won't remember that they forgot what has occurred. They also won't remember that they don't remember. You don't know what you don't know. This is an example of hypnosis used internally by the programmer and the programmed parts to control other inside parts. This is used in Alice in Wonderland programming as Alice falling down a tree. In Oz programming, it is used in the poppy field. Or as a Glinda the Good Witch with her wand. Two-way amnesia can be used where neither parts know about the other's existence. That's creepy. That's that Sybil type stuff that that movie was based on in the 80s. Anger management programming teaches the subject to redirect their anger away from the handler and programmer. The subject will be provoked by one of these figures until they are angry. The question is asked, are you angry? That's weird. When the subject replies in the positive, an electroshock is applied. Oh my gosh, they're doing Pavlov's dog. The subject will be brought to a high level of anger, allowed to cool off for 30 minutes. The subjects and parts are taught to redirect their anger toward themselves. Okay, so this is so you don't retaliate against the person doing this to you. Right? So instead of, it's kind of genius actually, instead of retaliating against them, you start condemning yourself and hating yourself. Gosh, because we don't already have, that little devil on our shoulder doing that enough, telling us how broken we are and how, lowly we are. Wow. You must cut, hit, or burn when you are angry. Do you understand? Oh, okay. So when you, the subject, are angry, it is due to your inferiority. You must blank. Do you understand? Do you understand? The subject is traumatized until they are compliant. That's what was attempted to do with me. If any of it worked, I don't know. I don't think it did because I'm pretty strong-willed and strong-brained, especially when I feel like my children are involved or, I'm a mom. I don't want any harm to come to my children. Armageddon programming is activated in those who have Bible programming. The four horsemen on their different horses ride out and bring their different mental tortures to the subject's mind. Oh, wow. Assassination programs when an individual in the subject's environment is deemed to have become too much of a liability. Yeah. The subject may be triggered to attempt to harm the individual. Okay, so when an individual in the subject's environment is deemed to have become too much of a liability, the subject may be triggered to attempt to kill the individual. The programming will be placed. This is why I say it's dangerous right now for us, is because men and women, right? We man and wife, they share a bedroom. And you have children in the home as well. You might have a man and a wife and children who are on different sides in this spiritual war. So what happens if the man is sleeping beside the woman and maybe his mind is not as strong as hers? Maybe they have been programmed to destroy each other. And I sleep alone now. I will not sleep with anyone else in the same room. I can't do it. And just my dogs, or whatever, and I lock myself in. When all this started, I would shove myself in a closet and I would sleep in a closet. I know that sounds sad to most people, but that's how resilient a person is though, right? And that's how even through abuse and even through being harmed, that's how much a person is willing to stand their ground. I slept in a closet just to stay near my children to watch over them. Even though I was afraid for my own life. It kind of doesn't make sense, right? But that's what mothers do. Okay, so we basically know what this is. This is telling us about all the different ways that they can program a person. Bells of distraction. See, bells are weird because people mention that word around me a lot. The sound of bells tolling internally signaling to destroy a level of the programming, structures of programming, or a death knell. The program will have the bell toll a specified number of times for each object to be destroyed. Behavioral sciences program. Wait, can you program somebody to be a scientist? Human and animal behavior through controlled and naturalistic observation and disciplined scientific experimentation. So this is like, for example, if you would experiment on an entire family right? You'd have your control group. You'd have your family all together. This is like social experimentation, but on a smaller level is what that is. Beta programming. Most people know what this is related to. It's related to sexual programming, or the sex kitten programming, they call it. Allegedly, a lot of pop stars have had this done to them, spanning from rigid gender stereotypes on one end of the spectrum, princess programming, to hypersexualized conduct at the opposite end. You see what that says, and that's how I got for a little while. I was and the the psychologist actually said that. You seem to be hypersexualized. Perhaps you were abused as a child. And I told him that I believed my husband tried to kill me, and he reinforced that idea instead of instead of just counseling me and helping me heal. He explained to me different ways in which a husband could do that. And so, and then I lost an hour one day when I was in his office. He looked at me and he said, "You've already been here an hour. Your hour's up. It's time for you to go." And I kind of freaked out inside because I was still didn't know what was going on with me. And I did go back. Needless to say, I did not go back. And people would be disturbed to find out how deep this goes. So I had an old friend show up, a girl who I had danced with. Yes, I was a dancer at one point. Yes, I'm an educated woman. You can be both. Um, I was a dancer at one point, and I didn't work with the best people, but I did make a couple, I thought, really good friends. And this woman entered my life after being gone for 20 years. Her son and my son ended up being like best friends, but I couldn't figure out why I didn't hear about her being around sooner. Huh, gee. Anyways, she referred me to this psychologist. And this is what I'm telling, targeted individuals. You need to be logical, right? Certain things are happening because these systems are all connected. The school system, your medical file, your religious, transcripts, whatever type of church or whatever sessions you went to as a child, if you did any, all of these things are connected. And so if you get something medically wrong with you, or if you failed a test in school, that's how your priest will know, and that's how, your teacher would know that you just had your first communion. You know what I mean? All these things are connected. And people don't realize, like they say, well, the time and the resources and the money that would have to go into this. Look, money ain't nothing. Money can be made. Money is not what matters to these people. It's power, obviously, and control. And the soul. They literally want our souls. Why, I don't know. I don't know if they lost theirs, never had them, don't know. But obviously, they're wanting something from us. So we have this beta programming. I think that's what happened to me. Yeah. This programming eliminates all learned moral convictions and stimulates the primitive, devoid of inhibitions. Kitten parts are created with this programming. See, I feel like that's what happened to me. Betrayal programming. Parts are programmed not to trust one another so they cannot form alliances. That's bizarre. So all your different internal parts are programmed not to trust each other. Black box is a self-destruct. Brain starvation is done by severely limiting sugar and what? Proteins. Didn't that come up a lot in all this too? Water deprivation is taught to caregivers to raise the brain's temperature, which happens when the brain swells from lack of water. The subject gets woozy, overheated, and hallucinates so they can't remember clearly. Water deprivation combined with electroshock, oh my God, makes it difficult for the subject to remember anything. Heavy exercise, along with long periods of little sleep, 2 to 3 hours a day, causes an overproduction of endorphins, and victims begin to robotically respond to commands. I was also like that at one point when all this was going on because I was just so traumatized. Wow. Brainwave programming. Okay, so this gets deep, okay? Now, what I want to do is to look for key words that maybe I wanted to see if any of these are being used on a mass scale now in the media. Is kind of what was interesting to me. Now, this is weird. This one is called shy programming, or it's programming. Return to the cult is programmed and installed in order to get subjects to reassemble a packaged ideology or religious belief. It is the equivalent of calling in or coming in the language of secretive intelligence agencies, and it will make a sleeper subject return from any level of ideological digression or apathy to core beliefs they may not even be aware rules them. That's probably useful. That's deep. Because, for example, like me, somebody who had strayed from Catholicism all along, and I had started to get, apathetic, and I was kind of NPC-ish, and my conscience, it was only by the grace of God that I was given back my conscience, because I didn't have one for a while. And people will probably say, well, you're just programmed to be religious. It's not really your choice. Maybe, but at the same time, it brings me comfort, and I've seen real life results from prayer, from meditation, from positive declarations, from saying, I do not consent to the shenanigans that are taking place right now. I've seen good things happen. And that's what I want for all of you. But we have to be aware of these things. We have to know that these things are happening. Now, color coding. This is why, and targeted individuals talk about this a lot. They want to know why certain colors are used over and over again around them. Well, this is probably why. A way to organize systems that allows the programmer to call altars up easily. With hundreds of fragments, colors are a way of organizing them into an easily accessible group. Color coding is one of the first methods that are inlaid over systems. An entire system may be color-coded with numerous colors, with each system controller being given a different color over its part of the system. A box of colored scarves and electroshock are used to program color coding into the subject's mind. Besides altars, other things in the systems are color-coded. That's bizarre, but I have seen what is probably the side effects of that. Castle programming. That's weird. Castles are used for reprogramming, placing parts in the dungeon, and for hierarchy parts to live. Names of the castle should reflect the programming scripts. Oy vey. Oh wow, cutting programs. So all those kids that suddenly started doing that. Cocoon programming. Used with monarch butterfly images, this subject is wrapped in white cloth and reborn as a butterfly. The subject is under psychotropic medication to enhance the programming and images. The subject's legs are spread and folded like a butterfly's legs. The programmer then copulates with the subject as the programming script for the butterfly is read. This is like, who lives like this? Who comes up with this stuff? And I'm sorry, like, I know I say oftentimes it's both, it's technology, and I believe it's supernatural. Like, this is straight wickedness. Who wants to devote their time to these things? I mean, I'm fascinated by the psychology of the brain and how it works. However, in human behavior. However, there are certain things that just because you can do them doesn't mean you should do them. Cinderella programming is used for rituals. At midnight, a young part will be called up to perform a task. Other purposes of this program consist of falling asleep at midnight, completing a specific task at midnight, and amnesia programming triggered at midnight. Yikes. Cross-programming. Subjects will be programmed as teams. Each team will be given a code word for each altar who is part of a two-system team. I almost feel like that's kind of what happened in our case. Daytime abandonment. Wow. The environment itself is programming, no matter how the infant behaves, if it is ignored and abused physically and emotionally in the daytime. Nurturing and caretaking by caregivers occur only at night. Oh, that's wicked. Death programming is completed by removing the fear of death from parts and advising the altar they must protect the secrets, family, clan, and system. The fear of death is removed by torture and advising the part they don't exist. They are passing through, and this life is a doorway to another realm. Torture programming consists of okay. So they induce an NDE into a person. Wow. Okay, so you could have read that on your own. So yeah, there's another alpha, beta, delta. This is known as programming originally developed for training special force or elite soldiers. Yikes. Denial programming. Begins with the first, and then the subject has been traumatized the next morning. The programmings are acting as. Yeah, that's probably what every child goes through. I've went through, I mean, yeah. Anyone who's abused pretty much goes through this. The subject will learn to deny any memories due to fear of punishment. No one will believe them, and they will lose anyone they are close to. Yep. Demonology programming. The subject's alters are to participate in rituals where demons are invoked. Okay, so this is what, again, this is this is kind of the root of the problem that we're looking at now. Because I do believe at the beginning the Catholic Church was the true church, because it is compromised at this point in time. Demons are running amok. Okay? You can disagree with me all you want, but the proof is everywhere. How do we get rid of them? What do we do? What did Christ do? Nobody wants to do these things. They're not hard things to do. Pray, fast, the person and those supporting the person, and repeat. And do these things until you or your family member or loved one is cleansed. Or get yourself real shiny. Fast for as long as a body can go without food. And maybe, hopefully, everyone you touch or speak to will be delivered just that way, just by you speaking to them or touching them. But you have to get really shiny to be able to do that. And I only know these things because that's part of the downloads that I received when all this began. And I know because they tried to remove fasting from the NIV Bible. They removed it in 2017 when I started reading the Bible on my own. You just have to give up a little bit of this stuff for a little while. Deny yourselves. Pray. Take 5-10 minutes a day. People aren't doing it. Nobody wants to do it, and then you'll shut me off because you don't want to hear me. Does that work? How long does that work for, shutting down your conscience? I'll tell you, for me, it wrecked my life. When my conscience finally decided to come back on, it came with a vengeance. Every day is painful. Every day my heart aches for everyone I ever hurt because I was so deadened for so long. This is a labor of love, me just talking to you this way. We have to fight this with love, compassion, forgiveness. Yes, there are people different than us. Yes, there are some rainbow hijackers that are wicked. Yes, there are some priests that are wicked. That doesn't mean we can't pray for each other. We can't pray for them. That does not mean that we should not be loving them or showing them compassion. I'm not saying you have to agree with them. I'm not saying to approve of drag shows and, with children. None of that. I'm simply saying show compassion. Show love. However you can. Christ told us, love above all things. Do all things with love. That is a big part of the gospel that most people don't even talk about. If you're ever confused and you don't know the right thing to do whatever it is you decide to do with love. If it can be done with love, then it's probably not wrong. Probably. I'm no expert, so please don't. I'm not teaching here. I'm appealing to my fellow man. I love you guys. So, demonology programming. The subject's altars are to participate in rituals where demons are invoked. The demons are to act as guardians protecting the system. The altars are advised if the demon is cast out, they will return sevenfold. Great. Altars are also advised there are demons to prevent Christians from breaching the system. That makes deliverance very difficult. That would be where you would need clergy and Priests who do exorcisms, let me just make this very clear, because we have a lot of celebrity priests now that I would not want giving me anything. I wouldn't want them praying for me. They're celebrities. They're on YouTube and writing books for reasons. They're not they're not of good. When you get somebody who's in really bad shape and they need deliverance, the priest or the preacher, minister, they must be very shiny themselves. They can have no unconfessed sin in them. And they can have no, mortal sin, obviously, not even venial sin. And most of them should fast before they go to see that person. But that person also has to fast. Why? Because it empties you out. And then you can be filled up with the Holy Spirit. Because some food that we eat is bad for us. And it brings us down to a lower vibration, a lower level frequency, where the demonic, because they're lower level entities, are better able to attach to us that way because we are on their level. However, if you pray, if you declare good things over your family, your town, your house, your life, if you do these things together, right? Those things can be cast out and gotten rid of. Disney programming uses Disney movies and scripts for subjects. The subjects' parts will be given Disney character names. Like, who has this is what they do. How do they get grants for this stuff? Like, hey, yeah, I'm going to write a proposal. I'd like a grant today, to just kidnap 200 or 300 indigenous children, that nobody will miss. And we think we're just going to practice some mind control techniques on them. And, oh, by the way, I wrote up this whole formula on how to do this with each individual specifically. Like, yeah, okay. I can't even, I guess that's my problem though. I guess that was my problem all along, is that I can't imagine things like this actually happening. And so when I learned that they were real and that they were happening to me and to people that I love very much, it almost broke me. Almost. But I'm standing firm, and these people hate me and keep coming after me, and I'm a girl now with not even 200 subscribers. Ask yourself why the system hates me and people like me, the people who comment on my page, the other targeted individuals. Why are we so despised by the system? We're just little people. We have little, small lives. Because we figured out that we're sovereign. We figured out that we're above them in the hierarchy. We figured out that they have no claim or authority over us. It's really that simple. That's why some of us are attacked and targeted. Don't talk, don't tell programming. We know that exists. Distortion. That's bizarre. Like, this one takes some creativity. This leads to the subject believing they are losing their mind. Outside diagnosis will lead to schizophrenia. See? They want people looking like they have mental illness. They want that to be like this blanket thing. I wonder what they're going to write about this when everything's said and done and the population goes way down. If there is a future, what will be said? Will it be like the Spanish flu? Will it be like the Vietnam War? Will they cover most of it up with catchy slogans and the covers plastered with protesters everywhere and not really say the truth of what happened? That this was a persecution, euthanasia, and genocide all at once? Will they have the guts to say that? Will anyone have the guts to say that that's what's happening? It's happening. They're making laws about it now. You can only say it doesn't affect me for so long before it affects you. Someone you love. Before someone you love turns on you or you offend them. And guess what? Years ago, you made them power of attorney over you medically. And I would advise you, don't sign anything like that right now at this time. Don't give anyone any type of authority over you. I don't care if it's a husband or wife. These people are compromised. People cannot be trusted at this point. sadly. But people like me with these smaller channels and those of us that want to gather want to change that. We want to see fellowship again, small communities again, neighbors who know each other, love each other, and are there for each other. That's something we're going to start talking about. Doll programming, which is weird. They're given a doll that looks like them. Oh my gosh, I was given a life-size doll like that. I don't even want to look at that. Early milieu programming. The subject is abandoned by caregivers. Oh. That's horrible. See, I don't like any of this. Okay. So we will look at more of this because I'm interested in this person too, like what Svali or who Svali is. The Jesuit order has difficult recontact programming. This is why very few members of this organization attempt to leave. The recontact programming is based upon two main. Okay, so are they talking about Catholicism? See, some of this I just don't know. See, that's not even true. See, some of this is why I don't want to read all of it to you guys, because some of it I just don't even, I don't want to give credence to, unless you know what I mean? I can go back to the source myself. But I think it is definitely helpful for times like now and everything we're seeing. Okay, so the last thing, at the beginning of 2019, once again, they said not to, they announced to the military not to get any DNA tests. When this all started. And they put it out publicly. They weren't personnel against the at-home DNA test. But why? Why should we watch out for that? Well, they're not warning everybody. They're only warning the military. Huh. Because of this, I would stay away from them. I don't know what they're doing with them, but obviously they are looking, me and Denise have talked about this, they are looking for somebody. They're looking for a specific bloodline, lost tribe, maybe? I don't know. But there's a reason they warned against the military using them. They want their people to be of a certain caliber, right? They want them in a certain health condition. I'd be interested to know how many people did that year. How many people in 2019 and 2020 took an at-home DNA test? Oh, and the last thing. This is very cool. I'm going to do a short video on this. Because you know who owns that, right? My favorite group ever. Yeah. They own those companies. They also invested a lot of money into Moderna. Imagine that. Okay, so the Book of Mormon, they are very into DNA. They want to know who was who, and it's one of the first things they ask you to do, basically, is to do a family tree. Why do they want all this? What does it matter to them? Again, I've told you, I'm not blaming the flock, but there's something wrong with this religion. Some of it I actually really like. The people are nice, most of them, and the book is actually fascinating to me. It's some of this other stuff that bothers me. The business end of things, the men, their profits. I don't care for patriarchy at the moment. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a feminist, but I don't care for the current patriarchy. Okay. So I was looking to see what was trending because I wanted to see if the Pope was still trending. And I have to show you something because I'd never heard of this. And I think it's, again, Just one of those strange things. I'll probably do a short on it. Okay, so I didn't know there was a thing called a Mormon cricket, okay? It's the largest insect native to Western North America. Had no idea. Had no idea. They kind of look like what? Locusts, right? Aren't they kind of the same family? Okay, so this was just 7 hours ago. Let's show you the news on these guys. Cannibalistic bugs are wreaking havoc on Nevada's roads. Video. Swarm of Mormon crickets take over Idaho Road. Millions invade Nevada. See the millions of crickets flood Idaho Road. See them all? And there you go. The Weather Channel is always good for almost biblical plague of crickets on the move. Videos from the Weather Channel. Do you see? It just doesn't get any stranger these days. So yeah, it's my opinion that Her Majesty probably passed away at the beginning of all this. They needed time to get their affairs together, yada, yada, yada. I also believe something happened to the Pope. There was allegedly an accidental news release that he had passed, and then they redacted that. They retracted that, took it away, and said that they were wrong. I don't think they could say anything because it'd be very suspect having two world leaders basically pass away at a very similar time. And that leads us to Biden also having issues of not looking like he is who he says he is. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. This word is in the headlines again a lot too. I don't know why, but again, I told you my thoughts on this, on how I feel about the Giants. We will get back to this, okay? But the word is being passed around a lot again, I saw. Okay, so that's weird. A giant magnet hanging from a helicopter could solve California's drought water. I don't want to know. I don't think I want to know. Okay, so anyway, you get the picture. There's a lot of big biblical headlines. So I think that's it for today. I wanted you to know some of these things, they operate, how they work, what you should be watching out for. The Bundy bloodline, families in the Bundy, Ted Bundy, Jack the Ripper. Okay. So this tells you, allegedly, much like there are 12 tribes of God, Satan had to counterfeit copy. So there are allegedly 13 bloodlines of Satan. But it depends on who you ask. One will say this one's Satan and the other one's the good one. The other people will say this one's the good one, that's the bad one. So be very careful with that. I really don't like to... What's the word? I really don't like to, again, make blanket statements. There's a lot of Freemans around here. Mormon leadership. That's special. Can I click on that? I can't click on that. The Freeman bloodline. Independent discoverers of the Holy Grail. Ties to other important families. Mormon leadership. Digressing about the Mormon connection. Wow. See? Do you see? When you see these same people or the same names or the same word coming up over and over and over again, pay attention. Someone's trying to get your attention. So I think you can... No, it doesn't let you click on these. It's just showing you the families. And Rockefellers, everybody knows that. Reynolds... Rothschild. And the Rothschilds just goes on and on. Fritz Springmeier, I don't even know if he's still alive, but his information, if you can find his old radio interviews, you might want to look those up. The Van Dyne bloodline. I just saw that somewhere and I don't remember where. The Merovingian bloodline, and that's allegedly my family is under their house. I don't know if it's because we're related or because we were just in their, like, kingdom or area or whatever. So this is why I say don't judge, because some are probably repented, hopefully. And God says all who call upon him shall be saved. So you see how deep this gets, though. I mean, this is bad. Welcome to deprogramming. And this allegedly will show you ways of getting deprogrammed, okay? But first you got to figure out how you were programmed or how your loved one is programmed. And I wanted to show you that a lot of what you're seeing today is the culmination of these things coming to fruition. Why do you think people are so vigilant regarding the rainbow flag? Like they just, it's like a switch was turned on, right? Because very possibly 5G is sending out some signal that awakened a program in these people, and they want to give their lives to these things. So, anyways, I wanted to let you guys know about a few of these things and show you what was going on in the Vatican. I don't know. We got to pray. Like, praying does help, because prayer is consent. When you pray, that is asking God for intervention. That is asking God for his help. That is asking the creator of the universe to send help. Whether it's angelic help, physical help, I don't know. That's one thing, okay? The other thing is to know that you are sovereign and teach your children that it is okay to say no if somebody wants them to do something wicked, okay? That's what Nancy Reagan was trying to teach us. I think we just, again, the message was skewed. And I don't know, sometimes we get the messages wrong from the spirit realm. It's very possible our helpers are trying to help us more, and we're just not understanding it at this time. But I love you guys, and I wanted to make you aware that, especially news that's far away, be very discriminatory about it. You're allowed to be that way, okay? And do your consents in the morning. I do consent to love. I do not consent to child abuse, for as far and as wide as my territory goes. I do not consent to theft, or coveting, or whatever your thing is. Just say it in the morning after your prayers, and try to keep your mind strong and on heavenly things. But we have to exercise our willpower, because a lot of us haven't done that in a long time. A lot of us have turned into order takers. We're used to taking orders. We're used to living by a clock. Why do we do all these things we do? Because somebody else raised us or trained us or taught us to do them. Look at everything you're doing. Is it proper? Is it correct? Is it morally right? Is it helpful? Examine yourself and your life. Make sure that you're the one in control of your own domain, of your vessel, and that nobody else has consent to do that. Now, if you'd like, in the next video, we can talk about ways that consent is given sometimes unknowingly, ways that people invite these alien abductions or ritual, satanic abuse, whatever you would call it. I'm not saying it's their fault. We need to understand that and remove that word. I'm saying you don't want to give them legal rights, all right? Because then spiritually, you can't get help. Or, you're let's say, and this is an example, I don't know if this is what you believe, but let's say you want some type of help, your guardian angel's hands are tied then if you invited something dark and demonic into your life. And then you have to get rid of it yourself, okay? So we have to be sure that we're not inviting this darkness into our lives. Shut the TV off. Shut the marketing and the advertising off as much as you can. It's bad enough you go down the road and you got to see all the billboards and stuff. Feed your ears good food, okay? Music is food for the soul. Feed it good music. Good, wholesome music, right? Something that shows appreciation to God. And I know people are called nature worshipers today, and I know they say that's witchcraft, and I agree to a point. However, God wanted Adam to name the animals because it is our domain. They are to be under our care. We don't have to worship them, but we are to have compassion for our environment and for everyone else that's in it, okay? So if we are at a higher vibration, if we are careful about what we put into our vessel, and it's not a food stuff, right, that vibrates at really low or not at all, maybe, right? It's so fake, right? Whatever you put into your vessel. So that includes music, that includes movies, that includes books, that includes food, that includes partners, okay? Whatever you are taking in, You want to be very careful that you are vibrating at a higher frequency than these lower level things are. Okay? We are above them in the hierarchy. They really don't have any legal right to be running rampant like this. And be careful on YouTube. I believe, at least if you are going to say something and pass something along that you learned on YouTube, at least look for the credible source. Because like I said, I couldn't even find the source for what Church Militant was saying about the Pope and the dancers and all that. I couldn't even find a legitimate source other than, yes, it was a dance, but no. The only thing weird was I did hear, but I did not find in writing, was that the dance that the guy did, that the ballerina did under at St. Peter's is called Rain in Your Black Eyes. That was the last thing I wanted to tell you guys. I knew I was forgetting something to tie it up with the Pope at the end. But the dance was called Rain in Your Black Eyes. If you don't know what time it is by now, I don't know how else to help you. And I'm sorry I might seem a little airheady lately, but I'm not used to conversing anymore. And I got my head in the clouds, kind of. I'm just trying to stay imaginative, even if it's in my own mind. And I'm really meditating on some of these aspects of time and time travel and how some of this might be happening that we're seeing today. I really don't believe in the Mandela effect the way other people believe in it, but I do believe something is happening. And again, I think it has everything to do with illusion and in this mesmerizing hypnotism type thing that our enemies are into. And we need to learn how to defend ourselves against us, because quite frankly, that is the one way, that is the one thing that I think they have a leg up on us as far as that goes, because so many people have no idea like that it's even happening, right? You trust a therapist, you go to see a therapist maybe for marriage counseling, ends up maybe taking advantage of the situation or hypnotizing you. I mean, who knows how many people they wanted to do this to initiate this alien deception, which is coming, by the way. And I will discuss more on that, but I don't even want to really talk about the alien in Las Vegas. I told you guys Las Vegas was going to be like ground zero for a lot of this stuff, and I told you what my theory was on that. I don't think there were any aliens in Las Vegas. They didn't show us a ship or anything. People are getting way too used to CGI. They're getting very messy in their reporting. There wasn't even a crash. There was no crash site. There's no debris. There's no video of an orb. Just something maybe walking through his yard. No, I don't buy it. And I don't buy anything coming out of mainstream media. Las Vegas, New York, LA, now Pittsburgh, Chicago. Anything that happens in those cities that's televised is televised for a reason, because it's part of an agenda. So please be mindful. All right, this has been long enough of me rambling. I do have everything set up for the Hobie Prophecy and the iPet Goat 2 connection. I'm just having a hard time getting into figuring out which Hopi book I want to show you guys. I might just have to toggle through both. That way you get a fuller idea of the complete Hopi prophecy and what it is. Because it's very hard to find the complete prophecy written in one place. Because, their traditions are oral. But anyway, Sammy's snoring. I have to wake him up. Have a blessed day. And if you could, please pray for me. Me and Sam and my children, we could really use them right now. Thank you.